You are looking at you came to the Letting Go of Fear webinar. So welcome to this webinar. I am Allison Johnson, your host for the webinar, and my producer and co-host is Shahara Murphy. Shahara, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shahara. So I'll be monitoring the chat and engaging with you all there. I'll be dropping information, some links, answering any questions that you have. I'm super excited to be supporting this amazing presentation that Allison has prepared for you. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you in the chat.
All right. Thank you. So good to have Shahara once again as, I'll say, my sidekick. That's what they say in broadcasting. So I'll just say it here. But she does an amazing job in the chat, and I just appreciate having her participate with me in these endeavors. Let me tell you a little bit about who I am. Some of you may not know me. My name is Allison Johnson, and I am the owner and president of the Lee Johnson Group. We have been in business for a total of 2 decades. I know you can't tell, but it's been 2 decades, y'all. Our main area is organizational training, and we are excited about relaunching into coaching. So one of the things I want to do is to really begin to work with individuals in group settings as well as in one-to-one coaching. We will always have these webinars. They'll always be free. And I'm excited about how they build on coaching themes. So all of our webinars build on things that you would want more coaching about. And for that, you can contact me directly at the Lee Johnson Group, which you saw on the cover slide, and you'll get a copy of that as well. You can email me or just go to the website and we can connect. So I am so glad you're here and you're taking your time today. Let me give you a quick disclaimer. We will be talking about fear. And so I want you to know that this information is just for general educational purposes only. It is not intending to provide any medical advice or treatment or process, right? It's not even considered necessarily mainstream healthcare. All right, it's education. And it is going to be focused on this thing called fear. If you find that you need to go deeper, I want you to reach out to a doctor or a mental health provider. All right. There's no shame in doing that. We're not diagnosing anything. It's not good. This material is not good for medical conditions. All right. Just know that we'll be dealing with it down here at the bottom. It talks about categorical compromises that come when we want to let go of fear. So that's what we're doing. And I'm excited about working with you on this. All right, that's it for the disclaimers today. Welcome. And I am so glad that you've decided to spend your lunch hour with today in letting go fear. So part of the welcome is you're going to see that these webinars, if you haven't been on one before, they're interactive. We talk in the chat. Shahara's on top of that chat, and she'll be interacting with you there as I interact with you and talk to you about this particular topic. So the first question I have that I would like for you to put in the chat, if you will, is what interested you in this topic? Because fear, I noticed that our numbers went down with engagement on this particular webinar, and that's okay. But you were brave and you decided, I'm going to come to this webinar about letting go of fear. So what interested you in this topic? A couple of words, just a couple of words. Shahara is going to tell me what she's seeing in the chat.
So those answers are still coming in. I'm assuming everyone's still typing. Right now I see to be more bold.
Yeah.
Fear leads to many of my decisions and it's exhausting. And I don't want fear to have control over my life.
Yeah, those are great ideas, right? And I love that. I love that one about fear is exhausting, because it really is. And so we will give you some strategies today about how to deal with that. Keep talking about it in the chat, and we'll move forward here. So I want to give you an outline. And I'm going to use an analogy of a rope, because when we're letting go of fear, you saw the promotion information, which I know that you all have. It was this woman climbing up a mountain, right? And so she's climbing, but she's climbing freehand. But oftentimes we're doing life with ropes. All right. So I thought this would be a good analogy. And I believe at the end of our webinar and our time together, you'll be able to decrease your dependence on ropes. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is, before you let go, we need some knowledge. And then you notice that rope is in the next rope is sort of going down, right? We want to get in motion. And so I'm going to give you 6 ways to get in motion, okay, once you have this knowledge about fear, and perhaps shake some of that exhaustion. I love that answer. Now, you notice this next rope still is tied to something, right? There's like this little hook and it's anchored there. And we don't want anchors. So I will give you 3 ways to stay free, okay? 3 ways that when you sense that sensation of fear, what can I do to shake it off? The next thing is, notice I love this rope because this rope has nothing binding it on either side, okay? And so what we're saying about this one is, how do I get on offensive? How do I get in the offensive position when it comes to fear? And so that's what we'll be looking at. I'll give you 5 strategies to get on the offense. So I know you're ready to go. I'm excited with us launching. So let's move on. Let's go to that first one, which is the idea of getting some knowledge around fear. Now, our fears establish the limits of our life. I want you to think about that a moment. Our fears establish the limits of our life. I wanted to first define fear. Fear is that unpleasant emotion or sensation that is caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous. And it is likely to cause you pain or a threat. That's what it means in the noun. As a verb or an action, you're afraid of that someone or something, and that is likely to be dangerous, painful, or threatening. And there's that reaction, right? Something happens to you. And so we'll be looking at that. So when you hear that now around our fears establish the limits of our life, is that true or false? Put it in the chat. True or false? What are we thinking? Shahara's looking at it. I saw a hand go up there.
Yep, I see everyone saying true in the chat.
Well, everybody, I don't have no one that's saying false. You're in the right webinar. You're in the right place at the right time. All right, let's talk about the difference between anxiety versus fear. Remember, we're getting some knowledge here. So when we, the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. Remember, I told you we're not doing any medical stuff here. All right. I didn't even know there was such an association, right? And the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. But they say that 40 million people in the US suffer with anxiety-related disorders, okay? And 18.1% of the adult population will experience overwhelming fear and dread at some point in their life, right? And so it doesn't mean that it's always, but they get that, right? And there's reasons for that. Again, not diagnosing, just giving you some general information. Anxiety is used to define an ongoing sense of dis-ease, all right? It's not fear, but it's that dis-ease, it's that worry that may not present themselves as immediately threatening. Anxiety, the key is anxiety is that background lingering worry and concern. It's less noticeable, it can be recurring, and ultimately it can prove more problematic than fear itself. It is the compilation, it's those things that cause us disease or worry that compile, okay? And they're a compilation of our fears. Um, and the key is we want to be able to acknowledge and effectively express them. All right. And a lot of times we don't even know this is happening. It's happening below what we call below the surface. Right. And we just, you'll hear more about this. So I don't want to get tied up in the sense that I want us to move because we got some good stuff coming. So there is the biology of fear. All right, there's a biology of fear. And by this, that what I mean is physical aspects of the emotion of fear or that sensation. All right. So here's what's going on in the brain. The some of you know about the amygdala, and we talk about this in emotional intelligence. You have a amygdala hijacking, is what I think is Daniel Goleman that talks about that, and I hope I got his name right. But he says we have an emotional hijacking, right, that happens to us in the amygdala part of the brain. And so what happens is we fear. Something happens and it triggers us and we get that fear. And so then we have to decide whether or not we want to fight or flight. All right. Are we going to stop and freeze or and do something, or you know, or are we running away? So there's that freezing and then we fight or we flight. And the key is we want to get to safety, and we want to get to safety. So let's look at this. And sometimes safety is running into our fears, but that's later on. So what's happening biologically? The cortisol fight or flight hormone in our body is being released, okay? I mean, it goes from the brain and it goes through our body. Cortisol increases the release of glucose, which gives you energy, all right? And you can see this glucose gives you energy if you have a 3-year-old around you at any time, right? Or you see a 3-year-old, you give them some sugar, give them some chocolate chip cookies, they are all over the place, all right? So there is this increase in energy. The challenge is that not every stimulus that we experience presents a real danger. So that released glucose into the bloodstream remains unused and over time can build up. And so then that causes stress, anxiety, and those unprocessed fears can actually be the root of many physiological issues like cardiovascular issues or diabetes and a lot more. Again, this is not any diagnosis, just general information, but these are some of the things that can go on. And finally, another function of this cortisol that is released is to bring equilibrium to the body when we have a lot of stress and fear. And so it tries to bring us back into balance, okay? But so there's some good part of it, but again, a lot of that, those hormones will stay in the body. All right. So fight or flight in the 21st century. Look at this. Okay. So, when you're fighting and there's a bear in front of you, that's one thing. All right. But today's reality is not quite as dangerous. Cortisol is released in everyday situations which are not life threatening. Let me give you some examples. I went to my favorite friend, Google, and you can too, because when you think about what are you afraid of, you can Google that thing, y'all. So I looked at leaders, right? And what are leaders afraid of? The fear of being seen as an imposter. If you came to the imposter syndrome, you know what that's all about. And that particular webinar is up at our YouTube station. The fear of being criticized, being a failure is another one. The fear of not being a good communicator. The fear of conflict, that's major. And so a lot of people who would be good leaders, they allow things to fester in the workplace and around them. And it just gets out of hand and the place becomes toxic because they're afraid of conflict. Another one is getting things done. All right. And the fear of taking responsibility. Not only do leaders have that problem, but workers have that problem, right? Nobody wants to be responsible. Nobody wants to be accountable. And what's at the root of that is fear, is fear. We got to face that fear and charge forward and charge forward because in the unlimited boundaries of fear is excitement and life and some of the success that we're really looking for. So the body hasn't learned to differentiate between the dangers of a bear or a fear of conflict, all right, or what I have done or something that I wrote or I said. Both types of fears are the same to our bodies. And the body becomes overstimulated with that cortisol and flooded with unnecessary hormones, and it results in unnecessary and unhelpful levels of stress. Now, it's one thing when you say, stress, I'm tired, because that's true. It's another thing when we say, I'm stressed and I'm tired, but it really is at the root of it is fear. I don't want to, I'm not taking, I'm just tired. So I'm not taking responsibility for that. The key to fear is this new word I learned is a and it's the fear of failing. So the question is, do you have a ticky-phobia? The fear of failing. I know that's a challenge for me. Can I get a thumbs up on that one? A thumbs up. What are you seeing, Shahara?
Right now, I see one thumb up. Someone typed in the chat, thumbs up. If you hit the reaction button, you can see the thumbs up option there.
Oh yeah, I see them floating.
They're
There they
definitely
go.
yeah. A lot of people have the fear of failing. They can resonate.
Yeah, we don't want to fail. It's in our DNA. We want to be good. We want to operate in excellence. And so one of the things is to get a handle over this dynamic of fear. All right, rational or irrational, how to know if fear is ruling you. So usually there'll be some type of sign that lets you know there's a signal that happens in the body, right? Whether or not your reactions are exaggerated or not. And so it's essential to remain aware of your surroundings for this reason. If you find that when you're around certain people, you tense up or you're in certain situations and there's this tension, you want to be aware of that. Have you created rifts or noticed a shift in the positive energy of interactions? Okay, what could be at the root of that is fear. So the first thing is noticing. Notice the patterns of when you feel anxious. Take an honest look at the situation and then decide if your body's reaction to them are justified or not. Okay. Is there a reason for me to be afraid? If there's a bear, probably so. If there's a coworker who challenges me a little bit, do I need to take it into my control and figure out what is the best strategy or course of action around that particular fear? Okay, so that's something that we can take a look at it. On this one here, I want to give you some examples of business fears. So you're an entrepreneur or you have an entrepreneurial spirit. Something in you says that you should do this particular thing. Maybe you're great at baking cakes. Maybe you're a writer. Maybe you see yourself doing podcasts. Maybe you see yourself doing what I'm doing and doing webinars and coaching and maybe you see yourself traveling more. You're at the retirement stage and you want to travel. Now, do not wait until you retire to travel. Okay, you want to do that beforehand. So fears of starting a business. These are some of the things that people struggle with there. Fear of not knowing what you're doing. Oh, I might fail. Oh, I might not get enough money, right? Or have the financial security. Oh, I don't know if starting a business alone is really good. So what happens a lot of times, people get a partner who you don't share values with, and that becomes a disaster, y'all. That can become a disaster. Fear of being different or unknown, or the fact that the system is stacked against me. All these questions, all these fears that go through our mind that cause us to sit on the sideline, and you should be in business for yourself. You don't have to do it full time. Maybe it's part time until you get some of this stuff worked out. But the key is make the step. Maybe you're a writer and you want to write a book, or you're in the middle of a book. Take some of your chapters and launch them into an article and send them out for publishing. Send them to the venues. All right. See if somebody grabs on. Somebody needs what you have, and fear is a limiter of your success. And so we want to get rid of that. All right, let's take a look at where we are. That was our knowledge piece. When you look at this, identify common patterns. Is that an issue for you? What are your fight or flight scenarios? What do I talk a lot about, but I do little about? And I need to move forward from this fear, and I need a coach. Okay, I want to be your coach. Y'all know that. Okay. So put your number in the chat around which one of these is most important for you. What are we seeing, Shahara?
Right now, I'm seeing some threes come in the chat.
Uh-huh.
What do I talk a lot about? But I do little about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just some threes right now.
Okay, lots of threes.
And
Okay.
some fours as well.
Okay, good, good. I like that. I like that number 4 because y'all know where y'all can find a coach. All right. Thank you. So the key is to get curious about our fears, okay? Replace that unknown with curiosity and start exploring it. So before you let go, we got the knowledge. Now we want to get into what are some things that we can put in motion. Is it within your power to change? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on that. Is it within your power? Thumbs up or thumbs down? I see lots of thumbs. Well, I see 2 thumbs up. I see them. They're coming in. Maybe, I don't think this is the thumbs down crowd. You all came here to learn about this and to think more about it. Thank you. All right. The main problem is that this question often comes up during the power struggle between maintaining and releasing control of fear. Okay. And why would we maintain it? Because of comfort. Our own capacity to change is infinite, and it's vital that we access the potential. And you see that by those thumbs up to really, truly thrive. So you got the answer. Yes, yes, yes. All right. People have a hard time letting go of their suffering out of a fear of the unknown, and they prefer suffering that is familiar. Okay. So I'm in this situation, but I'm afraid to move forward. So let's look at this. What we hear is I'm not capable. I'd love to, but I couldn't. That's not for someone like me. I'm not able. No one will like your whatever it is. No one's going to like my webinars. Nobody's going to like my coaching. Nobody's going to like my teaching. Nobody's going to like blah, 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 blah. You get the point. And then there's another fear that I want to bring up is I'm not good at finances. A lot of us are struggling with fear and anxiety and worry because we don't have that equilibrium in our financial environment. And that is key. If you feel like you're over budget, you have no budget, you don't like budgets, and you're wearing your wealth versus having wealth, and the inflation and all this stuff, and you're in a dead-end job that you really need to get in out, but you got this quid pro quo thing going on with your job. Think about this. Okay, so in other words, you're there for the check, but there's no flow. And I'm going to talk about flow in a little bit. There's no excitement and positivity around it. Okay, that's probably not where you need to be. But because of not having a handle on your finances, all right, you're stuck. I would submit, like you said earlier, you can do something about this. You can do something about this. And Shahara Murphy, who is in the chat working with you today, happens to be a financial coach, okay, an educator. So she's going to put her information, she's going to put her website in the chat right now. And if you're interested in connecting with her, please do so. Please do so. There's enough for all of us, okay? And because that's a fear that really grinds us and goes into lots of areas. So with that said, put your number in the chat. Which one of these do you need to work on? Which one? You're doing great. And I know those numbers are coming in. So what do you see, Shahara?
Yeah, so right now I see a 6, some 3s, 2s and 3s coming in. So 2s
Okay.
are definitely rolling in now.
Yeah, that's that 3 one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to. What else do you see?
And we have a 1 in the chat as well. I'm not capable.
Okay. Okay. I hope that's the person that said that they needed a coach.
I hope so too.
All right. All right. So, and thank you for being transparent, you all, because this is like the beginning of just that opening up. And that financial piece is really key. It really is. That's another one of those fears that just permeates. All right, so what do we do about this? There has to be a releasing and accepting, right? I told you I'm going to give you 6 things to get into motion. And so this is our first one. The most important thing to consider when you're seeking to let go of any fear is to fully acknowledge it and how it has formulated in your mind. And the key is to put it in writing. And so I'm going to give you 5 steps of how you want to do this, because you want to become familiar with that fear and how it works. So acknowledge the fear. You might be afraid of networking, all right? And I haven't been out there networking in a while. I've got tired of chicken dinners, all right? And fake people, all right? But if I am going to coach and get clients, I've got to be out there. I've got to be in the mix, all right? So I've got to acknowledge the fear and getting out there. Release the controls surrounding it, all right? And the control is just easier to stay in that comfort zone, all right? Or the control is when you get there, there's a lot of fake people, everybody's, jockeying and I don't like that. All right. Decide which action can be taken to overcome it. Number 1, get in your car. No, number 1, look for some networking events that you are interested in. Okay. Not just every networking event may not be for me. Decide which action can be taken to overcome it. And so find places to go, at least 2 of them a month. All right. Get in your car and go there. Take this action to make lasting change and keep going. All right. Because people have to get to know you as well. Put all effort and energy and concern into creating that change that you want. One of the things, too, for me, as I relaunched the business after the pandemic, that's part of these webinars. And what did I want to do? You all know how I said I'm launching out into the deep. I am going to do it regardless of how, do it scared, right? But do it, all right? And I upgraded my webcam, this webinar here, because I'm not getting the quality I want for my webinars when I put them on the YouTube. So I just invested some extra money in the webcam that I'm using today. So that's put effort, put energy around things. Okay. So releasing and accepting. All right. Number 2 is feed your spirit. All right. Do not deny the spiritual side of you. Whatever gives you a spiritual sense of being, you want to do that. For some people, is reading the Bible, is reading scripture. For others, is it might be being in nature or being near water. You want to flow in that and don't allow fear to rob you of your peace of mind. Feed your spirit. Speak peace over yourself. I love what one mentor said to his mentee over in Timothy, and some of you may know who I'm talking about, Paul and Timothy. Paul told Timothy, "For God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Sometimes I have to go back to that, y'all. That's my practice. I'm not pushing my practice on you, but whatever it is that you feed your spirit with, you want to start doing that. Because everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Okay? So go for it. All right, number 3. So we've done 1 and 2. It is often said that depression occurs when we're living in the past, and fear or anxiety occurs when we try too hard to live in the predicting the future. So depression, the past, and fear and anxiety is trying to predict the future, right? Instead of living in the now. That's hard, but that's what it takes to let go of fear and release ourselves from its grip. So live in the now. Feed your spirit. How do I do that, Allison? Feed your spirit. Okay. Affirmations are another good way to do that. Work in your giftedness. Like I said, some of us are in dead end jobs. We're in jobs where we don't like it, but it's like we get trapped in there. So either if you're going to stay, then you want to let go of your fear of responsibility and accountability and showing up and talking to your boss and becoming a likable person. Okay. People like people who like themselves and who are likable. So you want to maybe do a switch in how you think about your job because you're getting good money there, right? So begin to figure out how can you express your giftedness there. Mindfulness is another one, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but being very present. And there's some things that go along with mindfulness that we'll talk about in a minute. And then creative pursuits. Work in your creative, things that help you to create. When you're living in the now, maybe it's music, maybe it's your art. And I'm not saying that may be your work or your employment. What brings you joy? What can get you in that now place versus that past or predicting the future and not moving? Okay. Gratitude is another one. This one releases the dopamines in the body. Believe it or not, it's a very powerful thing to do. What am I thankful for? What am I thankful for in this situation? I just got a bad diagnosis, but I had a doctor who could do the diagnosis. I'm thankful for the doctor to be able to tell me that. I'm thankful for the hospital that I'm in. Okay. And I didn't have to walk 15 miles to get to a tent that had no medication or had no strategy of how I could take care of myself for the next month or two or whatever it is. So being thankful, release that dopamine. Gratitude brings awareness back into the present moment and away from those fears, those stories you tell yourself. Okay, I can't do this, I'm a fraud, they're not going to like me, on and on and on. That's mental meandering. I like that term that researchers use. Gratitude has the capacity to bring anxious fears and stories into control. All right. It really is that powerful. And it can put us in a place of contentment. Think about that, feeding your spirit, gratitude, being mindful, not accepting that false information. Power, y'all, power. All right. Gratitude has a, like fear, gratitude is physiological and emotional. There's a sensation with it. So practice that gratitude. I know some of you know about this. You have gratitude journals, and each day maybe you'll go to 3 things that you're thankful for. All right. So that's a great habit to have. Now, flow. I like this one here, the flow state. This is our 5th one. This is a state of consciousness known as your flow state, which is characterized by periods of intense focus and undistracted concentration on one specific task. So I experienced this a couple of nights ago when I was working on this presentation and making it more of my own and putting my little spin on stuff. I sat down here at this desk at 4 o'clock, and it was 9 o'clock, 5 hours later, before I realized you need to get up. You need to walk. You need some circulation in your body going on here. Because I was in flow. I was in that concentration. Whenever you're learning and you are in positivity, right? And you're happy about what you're doing. So positivity, happiness, and you're learning, that's flow. Artists experience this. People who are mechanics and enjoy doing mechanical things, that's flow. All right. Different things that we do. I know people who enjoy it when they're out on the range, right? And they're shooting their weapon. That's flow for them. All right. What is your state of flow? What is your state of flow? I want to take a moment and just pause and give you a chance to answer that. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. What's an undistracted, concentrated, intense focus area for you where you could get lost? They have to call you to dinner, or you have to realize, oh, I got to make dinner. Have you thought about that? Your flow. What are we saying, Shahara? People are probably still thinking
Yeah,
about
they're
this.
still thinking. This is a really good question.
Yeah, yeah. What
So I
about for you?
think, watching documentaries, writing, researching the topic, cooking.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That can definitely have you in the flow of cooking.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Entertaining others,
Yeah.
reading or being at the beach.
Yes. Flow, flow. Get lost. Get lost. Whatever it is, you want to spend more time in that. That decreases that fear. All right, let's move forward. Trust and control. This is our 6th one. It has been proven that fear and anxiety regularly stem from a deeply ingrained need to control our environment and a fear of trusting it. So there's this pull, these polar opposites working. The reason for this is that anxiety thrives, listen to this, anxiety, that dis-ease thrives on the possibilities of failure and disaster. Your mind loves to go there, okay? This is not going to work. I don't know whether or not I can do it. I don't know why I'm stuck. I don't know. Mm, mm. Okay, it gets stuck. It gets in this theme. That's at the center. Sometimes I'll say to myself, okay, what are you afraid of? What's challenging you right now? You got to talk to yourself. Okay. So apparent threats, notice apparent threats, anxiety, and worst case scenario. What's the worst case scenario? And we go there and then we feed it, we give it oxygen. Fears can be intense and unyielding. All right. And you're really having that physical, you get knots in your stomach. Some of you, if I say, I want you to present in 2 hours something that you really love, right away, your stomach will start churning and everything, because people don't like to present things. They don't like public speaking. All right. And you got to do it before 4,000 people. Okay. And some of you know me and you know that I've spoken before 4,000 people. All right. You just got to, but that's my sweet spot. But you got sweet spots too that may not be developed like you want them. So fears can be intense and unyielding. That a that fear of failing is at the root, right? And trust and control is what sabotages us. And so we want to start trusting our environment and not trying to overly control it. I've talked to you about this little sticker I have up here on my credenza, and it says, you don't need more intellect, you need more implement. You don't need more intellect, you need more implement. And I have a note under there that says, do it scared, do it unprepared, and then do it again. Do it scared, do it unprepared, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. Because you have the intellect, you have what you need in order to do it. And that fear is the thing that's telling you, you need more of this, you need more of that, and you need more of this. You learn as you go at a certain level. All right. And you get better and you put that effort in that, which is what we talked about with those 5 steps, right? All right. Building self-trust is key. All right. So 6 ways to get in motion. Which one do you want to do more of? Releasing and accepting, feeding your spirit, living in the now, gratitude, flow state, or trust and control. Take a moment and put your number in the chat.
All right, so we have some 1 and 2s coming in, some 6, trust and control. I'm seeing some 4s and 5s.
Okay. Yeah. So this is good, y'all. This is good. And I hope you are getting something out of this as we go forward. So we are almost done, and we've got 2 more areas that we want to focus on. So we've got knowledge, we've got motion, and now we want to figure out there's 3 sort of key things to do to stay free. All right, to stay free and get rid of that little anchor thing that's holding that rope. Honor your emotions. What do you mean by honoring your emotions, Allison? Okay. When you're sad, when if you're crying or you're grateful or you admire someone, honor your emotions and don't discount them. Those are, feelings. A lot of times we don't want to deal with our feelings. It's important to do that. Reducing the resistance surrounding it, because when you do that, what happens is you create a safe space for that emotion to exist, because it's there, and you disowning it does nothing for you, but it gets stuffed and it gets into that unimmediate dis-ease, which is the anxiety, right? So you want to create a safe space for those emotions and being able to deal with them. The next one is silence. So honor your emotion. In other words, acknowledge it. And the power of silence is key, and not over. A lot of times, if we are afraid, some people overtalk. All right. Sometimes sitting in silence with anxiety and fear can prove one of the most daunting tasks. But by allowing that fear the time to settle, it becomes clear in our minds, and we can more easily put things in place to combat it. So it's really about being in that moment. Okay, I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? And then just being still. Stillness forces us to deal with fears and start from a place of stable awareness and change. That's the key to that. Don't ignore it. Acknowledge it. And then you can give yourself an invitation to do something about it. And then the last one is mindfulness. The researchers put this term, monkey mind. I was like, I don't know if I want to say that, but they said it, so I'm just going to give it to you. Don't let the monkey mind take over and lead. Instead, sit with emotions like fear and anxiety, remaining in the moment and resisting drifting, right, into imaginary thoughts and what ifs. We can have 1,000 what ifs. And those imaginary thoughts keep us from not achieving and having that atikiphobia going around for us. fear of failing. So assess your fears in a different light. That is key. So those three there, mindfulness, we talked about silence, and we talked about honoring your emotions. Which one do you want to do more of? Honoring those emotions, which means acknowledging them, being still, silent, or mindfulness? Put it in the chat, just one you want to do more of. I see the numbers ticking up. What are we seeing?
We see a lot of people saying number 3, that mindfulness.
Yeah.
We see the general gist. I see some 1s and 2s as well.
Okay. All right. Great work, y'all. Great work. All right. We are almost at the end, and this is where we're going to get offensive, and we're going to break all those ties to fear, and we're going to get on the offense. So there's 5 things we can do. Number 1, stop indulging your fear. Don't let your imagination run away with you, okay? You get into a negative cycle of indulging those habits and you can get stuck, all right? Fear is a sensation, and it really requires a lot of energy. And now somebody said that in the very beginning, right? It's exhausting. And so the more energy you give your fears, the more damage it does. So stop indulging those fears. I want you to remember this next slide. Hello, fear. It's about time we speak, okay? We gotta talk to it, right? We gotta talk to it. So number 2, we want to stop waiting for the right time. A lot of times we get into this cycle of, again, more information without implementing and being real scared. All right. These are 21st century. This is not a bear, and this is not a mountain lion that you're facing, or for me, a slithering thing on the ground. Because if I see one of those, I'm gone. Okay. That is not what we're talking about. But we're talking about launching out into the deep, right? Doing something that we haven't done, or getting our finances in order, or getting our house in order, or whatever it is that has us captive. All right. We want to get rid of those fears. All right. This perpetuates indulgence, fears, and lack of action. Guess what? The right time may never come. Okay. So, reality check. Don't be worried about the right time. Just do it. Just do it. Number 3. Stop. Oh, I'm still on this one. Stop waiting for the right time means that fear wins. And we don't want fear to win. We want to send fear packing. Error day. Be aware of root causes that may be going on for you. If you need to see a doctor, because we talked about the cortisol and being released or whatever, see a doctor, therapist, or a counselor. There's no shame in doing that. Get the help that you need. There are holistic strategies. Exercise is really important. A lot of times the body is not moving. So root causes, find out what's going on and be aware of that. And of course, if you find that I don't really have root causes, but I'm stuck and I want to go from here to there, then you need a coach. And I want to be your coach. All right. Y'all know that. So root causes. And as well as we have someone with the finances that can assist. Shahara, you've been interacting with her in the chat, and she is an educator when it comes to that area. So seek her out. All right. Language of emotions. This is really important. Become skillful and aware in the way that you experience and express your emotions. Okay. Often we need that safe space to talk. All right. And we need to be able to express our feelings. So I want to show you a graph. It is an emotional and feeling wheel. If you haven't seen one of these, you can look, just put emotional wheel or feeling wheel, and it'll come up. You'll see, and you want a picture of it. So just put a graph or photo, however, you'll get one of these, and there's lots of them out there on the web. And this one here, you might say, ooh, what is all of that? I want to focus in the center circle are some of the major feelings that people have. We're going to focus here on fear. So this peach area is our zone, if you will. And I want you to pay attention to, if you go to the outer portion of this, notice, and we were talking about failure and success, right? So when you feel yourself frightened or helpless, all right, you might be in a business type situation in the workplace and you're not getting along with the team and everything. So there's some, what might be happening for you. You feel helpless, all right, inferior, inadequate, worried, anxious. When you start feeling any of that, right? The dread and mortified and hysterical and panic, that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about those, I feel inferior, I feel inadequate. What's happening for me? Notice as you start coming in on those words, the second ring coming in, if you will, there's this idea of feeling insecure, scared, nervous. Those are the ones that we traditionally feel when we're stuck in our life and we want more, or we want to come out of positions that we're in, like not understanding our finances or not getting a grip on our finances and different things like that. And then if you notice, what's at the heart of it is fear. One of the things sometimes when I'll ask a person, what are you afraid of? The first reaction is, I'm not afraid. And then if I can get them to really begin to unpack what's going on, at the heart of it is fear. And when you can actually look at those emotions, identify them and work with them, that's a home run, y'all. That's a home run. All right, learn to let go. Fear, anger, love, hate, intense emotions. And the key is to examine them and then to learn from them, assimilate what's important, and let the rest of it go. That gives you a strong identity. All right. And you start having faith and confidence in yourself. You start trusting yourself. So that rope gets to be gone. All right. So when you look at these last 5 things, which one, and this is going to be your final exam, which one of these do you want to do more of? Which one do you want to do more of? We've got about another minute or so. So real quick, throw those things in the chat. Just put the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead, Shahara.
Oh, I'm seeing some 1s and 5s come in the chat. Yeah, a lot of 1s, 4s, 5s.
Great. Yeah. For me, it was stop waiting for the right time. Stop waiting to get more information. Let it go. Keep going. All right. So what we've done here, and you've already done the final exam, we've looked at this whole idea of fear. We pulled it apart. We've got 6 things for motion, 3 things to stay free, and you've got some offensive strategies. You can always go back to YouTube and look at the area that's most important for you and glean from the information that we put out. All right, there's resources. There's a link there going into the chat right now about that. We still have spots for group coaching. So if you're interested in that, you will also get this slide here. 7 weeks, 7 people, 90 minutes. We're going to start in October. So there's still a few slots. There's a $50 discount on the $6.99, which is $6.45. Here's our final slide that I always put up. You can do the free life calling assessment at the website, www.leejohnsongroup.com. Follow us on social media. I jumped out there, y'all, and got on social media. Some of y'all know I need help, so please contact me on that. Individual coaching, I want to be your coach. Group coaching, I've already talked about. Next month is eliminating procrastination. So be ready for that October 26th. With that, thank you for coming. We're right at the top of the hour. I'll see you next month on eliminating procrastination. Thank you for hanging out with us on the fear, letting go of fear. And I hope that you are letting it go. Take care. Have a great one. Bye now.